The Lex Fridman podcast begins with Altman discussing the initial challenges faced by OpenAI in 2015, when they announced that they were going to work on AGI. Altman mentions that they were initially mocked in the field, and he remembers an AI scientist from a large industrial AI lab who went as far as DMing individual reporters to express how ridiculous he thought it was for OpenAI to even talk about AGI. However, Altman notes that OpenAI and a few other companies were brave enough to talk about AGI in the face of such mockery. The conversation then moves on to the broader topic of AI and its implications for humanity. Altman believes that we are at a critical moment in history, where the collective intelligence of the human species will soon begin to pale in comparison to the general superintelligence of AI systems we build and deploy at scale. Altman highlights the exciting potential for AI to empower humans to create, flourish, escape poverty and suffering, and achieve the pursuit of happiness, but also notes the terrifying power wielded by superintelligent AGI that could unintentionally or intentionally destroy human civilization or suffocate the human spirit. They then talk about GPT-4, a system that Altman believes we will look back at as an early AI, but one that will still point to the path of something really important. Altman sees progress in AI as a continual exponential curve and isn't sure which version of GPT will stand out in the history books. However, he notes that if he had to pick a moment, he would choose ChatGPT due to its usability and interface. Altman discusses reinforcement learning with human feedback, which is the magic ingredient that makes GPT much more effective than it would be with just the base model alone. While some programmers may have anxieties about what the future of AI will look like, most are excited about the advancements and increased productivity that come with it. Altman points out that despite fears about AI taking over, humans still value imperfection, drama, and flaws in things like chess games. Human flaws add to the drama and interest level that AI cannot provide. However, Altman believes that the benefits of AI are extraordinary, as it can cure diseases, increase material wealth, and bring happiness and fulfillment to people's lives. It is crucial to create an AI that is aligned with human values, causing no harm or limitations to people. They also discuss the concerns about AI becoming superintelligent and killing all humans. While Altman agrees that there is some chance of that happening, it is vital to acknowledge these concerns and find solutions to prevent it from happening. Altman recommends iterating through the problems and learning along the way to limit the number of attempts to get it right. He also points out the importance of remaining open to adjusting the philosophy of AI safety as technology advances and changes rapidly. Altman believes that GPT-4 is not surprisingly impressive, and its reception is not much different than GPT-3. This intensity of the discussion leads the speaker to question how AI would take off and whether we would immediately realize it or not. In a hypothetical 2x2 matrix, the speakers both agree that a slow takeoff with a longer timeline is the safest quadrant. The discussion then moves on to the questions on AGI. Sam Altman questions if GPT-4 an AGI or not. It is said that it could be hard to determine if GPT-4 has AGI or not. The speakers in the discussion suggest that it is getting into the phase where specific definitions of AGI really matter, and the human factors are essential. Lastly, they also discuss whether GPT-4 is conscious or not. The speakers ultimately conclude that GPT-4 only knows how to fake consciousness. Sam Altman believes that AI can be conscious and suggests that some capabilities of an AGI that would indicate consciousness include an understanding of self, having some memory of itself, and display capability of suffering, among others. Altman also shares a thought experiment suggested by Ilya, a co-founder of OpenAI, which involves training a model on a dataset that has no mention of consciousness, and then asking the model to describe the experience of consciousness. If the model responds positively, it can be considered conscious. Altman also brings up the movie, Ex Machina, and argues that the smile of the AI at the end of the movie can be interpreted as passing the Turing test for consciousness. Altman is also concerned about the alignment problem and possible ways AGI can go wrong, such as disinformation problems or economic shocks. They discuss concerns regarding the potential danger of large language models on social media platforms, specifically Twitter. They believe that it is uncertain if Twitter is being mostly controlled by LLMs, and this is a potential danger, as there are soon going to be many capable open-source LLMs with few to no safety controls. They suggest that regulatory approaches and using more powerful AI to detect this happening could help prevent the danger. However, under the pressure of many open-source LLMs, it is challenging to prioritize safety. Sam Altman suggests that the best way to resist the pressure from other companies is to stick to their mission and compete with other AGIs who have different focuses. Sam Altman also talks about the structure of OpenAI, which started as a non-profit but later split up into a subsidiary capped for profit and a non-profit. He emphasizes that the non-profit is fully in charge, and this structure has protected them from making decisions that are not in shareholders' interest. Sam Altman expresses his worry about the uncapped companies that play with AGI. He believes that AGI has the potential to make a lot more than 100x, and it is essential to compete by building something that provides value while influencing others. He also mentions that there is fast and undeliberate motion inside some of these companies like Google, Apple, and Meta. Altman acknowledges that there are concerns about some individuals and companies being driven by the incentives of capitalism to create and capture unlimited value, but he believes that the majority of people are aware of the potential downsides of AGI and are engaging in a healthy conversation about how to minimize the risks. Altman emphasizes the importance of democratizing the decision-making process around this technology, and not having one person in control of it. He believes that distributing the power and creating institutional norms and regulations will help the world adapt to AGI and reflect on its implications. Altman acknowledges that there is always a risk of power corrupting individuals, but he believes that being transparent and open about the development of AGI can mitigate this risk. He notes that OpenAI is trying to balance the need for transparency with the potential PR risk that comes with it. Altman believes that clickbait journalism and fear-mongering can be detrimental to the development and deployment of AGI and would like to see more understanding and support from the media and the general public. Overall, Altman believes that the responsible deployment of AGI is a global challenge and requires collaboration and work from diverse stakeholders to minimize the risks and maximize the benefits of this powerful technology. Then they ask how Sam takes feedback and whether he takes feedback from Twitter. Sam Altman responds by stating that he mostly takes feedback from conversations like their current one, but sometimes takes a sample from Twitter. They then discuss their mutual colleague and friend, Elon Musk, and his comments on OpenAI's work on AGI safety. Sam Altman empathizes with Elon's stress about AGI safety but wishes he would acknowledge the hard work that OpenAI is doing to get things right. They then discuss the biases in GPT and how it will always be biased to some extent, but the goal is to improve upon it and make it as neutral as possible. Sam Altman also acknowledges the difficulty in avoiding the AI groupthink bubble and mentions his plan to go on a user tour to talk to users in different cities and contexts to gain different perspectives. Altman explains that he is nervous about the bias introduced by human feedback raters and mentions that selecting the right human raters is critical to ensuring the accuracy of the AI model. He stresses the importance of choosing a representative sample of people and empathizing with the experiences of different groups of people. He also emphasizes the need to be open-minded and avoid shallow heuristics when selecting human raters. Altman believes that AI models can be less biased than humans in the future, but he worries about societal and political pressures that could influence the training data. He believes that it is crucial to have input from society, but he is also aware of the indirect pressures and biases that can be exerted by organizations, politicians, and financial sources. Despite these concerns, Altman is confident in his ability to withstand pressure and make unbiased decisions as the CEO of OpenAI. However, he admits that he may not be the best spokesperson for the AI movement and lacks some interpersonal skills, such as relating to the impact of AGI on people's lives. Altman mentions his desire to make his company more user-centric and his belief that talking to users in different contexts would be helpful. He also admits to feeling nervous about the programming, particularly when faced with big changes that come with GPT and the fear that the models might be smarter than he is. Altman shares his experience of using Versus Code as a more co-pilot system and admits to being nervous about making the switch. However, he notes that his life as a programmer has become much better since the switch. Fridman asks Altman about the jobs that GPT language models could be better than humans at, and Altman suggests that customer service jobs are most at risk of being replaced by machines. Despite knowing that technological revolutions often make jobs disappear, Altman believes that these systems will create new and better jobs, and that as a society, we are confused about the value of work and whether or not people like their jobs. The guest, Sam Altman, discusses his perspectives on universal basic income in the context of AI. He explains that UBI is not a full solution to society's problems, but it can serve as a cushion through a dramatic transition. Altman expresses his belief that the economic transformation brought about by AI will drive political transformation, rather than the other way around, and he predicts that the cost of intelligence and energy will dramatically fall, leading society to become much richer and wealthier in ways that are hard to imagine. Altman hopes that there will be greater systems in place that resemble democratic socialism, which reallocate resources to support and lift up struggling people. When Fridman asks Altman about communism in the Soviet Union, Altman recalls that the idea of centralized planning and believes that individualism, human will, and the ability to self-determine are important. Altman believes that a distributed process will always beat centralized planning and argues that America, with all of its flaws, is the greatest place in the world because it is the best at this process. As for the control problem of superintelligent AGI, Altman thinks there is something about the tension and competition between multiple AGIs that could prevent them from going wrong. However, he also acknowledges that we don't really know what will happen with superintelligent AGI, whether it will be better than 100 or 1,000 AGIs, or whether tension and competition can happen within one model. They agree that AGI should have a degree of uncertainty and humility engineered into it. They discuss the potential need for an off switch or a big red button to roll back and unroll AGI systems. Altman states that they do worry about the various harmful use cases, but the collective intelligence and creativity of the world would beat the red teaming and testing methods. They also talk about the use of OpenAI's chatbot GPT and GPT-4, and how it has revealed more about human civilization. They discuss the development of benchmarks to decide what is true and what is not so that AGI systems can detect and prevent misinformation. Fridman asks Altman about his thoughts on what is true, and Altman stresses the need for epistemic humility, as he is freaked out by how little he knows and understands about the world. They discuss various examples from history, physics, mathematics, and even the theory of Nazi Germany and Hitler, where sticky explanations may not always be true but are still compelling. Sam Altman then discusses the concept of RLHF, which is the process of aligning a language model with what humans want it to do. This is done by taking some human feedback, which is as simple as asking which output the human raters prefer and feeding that back into the model with reinforcement learning. Altman suggests that this process makes the model much more useful and easier to use, and aligns it to what humans want it to do. He also notes that fewer data is required for this process, making it a much simpler and more efficient process than creating large pre-trained models. The pre-training dataset for these models is obtained from various sources, including open-source databases, partnerships, and the internet. However, Altman notes that filtering through the massive amount of data available is often a challenge. He acknowledges that creating the final product, such as GPT-4, involves a lot of problem-solving and the execution of existing ideas at every stage of the pipeline. Despite this, Altman believes that there is still much to be discovered in this field and that predicting the fully trained system's characteristics is an ongoing process of discovering science. The idea of truth is explored, with Lex suggesting that it could be defined as a collective intelligence that many people are in agreement with, citing Hitler's atrocities as an example. When it comes to constructing a GPT-like model, the challenge is contending with what is considered true, and GPT's answers must also take into account uncertainty. The conversation then shifts to the challenges of accountability and responsibility, with Sam acknowledging that tools like GPT can cause harm, as well as tremendous benefits. The responsibility ultimately rests on humans, although OpenAI has a responsibility to minimize the harm caused by the tools they create. The conversation then turns to the topic of jailbreaking and hacking GPT models, with Lex and Sam discussing the need for users to have control over these models, and that once these issues are addressed, there will be less need for jailbreaking. Altman then talks about the success of OpenAI in shipping AI-based products, as well as the process of going from idea to deployment. Altman attributes OpenAI's success to the high standards and autonomy given to individual team members, as well as the passion for the company's goals across different teams. When discussing how OpenAI hires great teams, Altman emphasizes the importance of putting a ton of effort into the hiring process. Altman also discusses OpenAI's partnership with Microsoft, stating that while the partnership has its challenges, Microsoft has been an amazing partner, going above and beyond to support OpenAI's goals. Altman also praises Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, for successfully transforming Microsoft into an innovative and developer-friendly company, noting that Nadella is both a visionary leader and a skilled manager. Sam comments on Nadella's ability to be clear and firm while remaining compassionate and patient with his employees. They then go on to discuss the recent mismanagement of Silicon Valley Bank, which Altman attributes to incentive misalignment and mismanagement by the bank's management team. This event highlights the fragility of the economy and the speed with which everything can change, and Altman is nervous about the speed with which institutions can adapt to these changes. However, despite these concerns, he is hopeful about the positive-sum nature of the world and the potential benefits that AGI systems can bring. While most people anthropomorphize AI systems by referring to them as him or her, Lex reveals that he has never felt any pronoun towards any of their systems other than it. Sam notes that it's important to educate people that AI is a tool and not a creature, although there could be a separate society for creatures. Lex agrees that projecting creatureness onto a tool could make it more usable, as it might have better UI affordances, but it's risky as it could lead people to rely on it for something that it's not capable of. Sam says that there are companies that offer for backup romantic companionship, but he's not interested in it. He also mentions that there are possibilities of interactive GPT-powered pets or robot companions, which could open up interesting possibilities. Lex and Sam also discuss the kind of conversations they would like to have with an AGI. Lex wants to know how all the physics work, while Sam is interested in knowing if there are other intelligent alien civilizations out there. They also discuss the possibility of AGI telling us that aliens are already here, but they agree that there's not much they can do differently in their lives. They also talk about the greater degree of digital intelligence in the world than they would have expected 3 years ago. Altman suggests that the trajectory of society's response to the pandemic, despite the technological advancement, has been disappointing, as it revealed the deeper social division that already existed. However, he marvels at the incredible technological advancements that have been made, which gave rise to Wikipedia, Google Search, and GPT. Altman also talks about his blog post on how to be successful, where he advises young people to focus on self-belief, independent thinking, salesmanship, risk-taking, hard work, and networking. However, he cautions against relying too much on advice from others, as it may not work as well for everybody. Instead, he recommends introspection and finding joy and fulfillment in life. They also discuss the challenges and approach of OpenAI in regard to safety alignment in AI. They mention how not everyone agrees with their approach of iterative deployment and iterative discovery, but they believe in it and think they are making good progress. Altman also notes that while the pace of capabilities and changes in AI is fast, it means there will be new tools to figure out alignment and safety. He believes that solving these issues is a shared task for humanity, and that they will work hard to ensure safety. Altman mentions that OpenAI's approach is iterative deployment and iterative discovery. This means they deploy smaller versions of AI and iterate on them to find potential safety issues before deploying larger, more capable versions. Altman notes that this approach is not universally agreed upon and is a topic of debate in the AI community. Altman also talks about the fast pace of progress and how it means that new tools will constantly emerge to deal with safety problems. This indicates a need for creativity and flexibility in finding solutions to keep up with the changes. Altman emphasizes the importance of working together as a human civilization to solve the safety problem in AI. He believes that it is a shared task and that OpenAI will work hard to ensure that safety is a top priority. In this section of the podcast featuring Lex Fridman and Sam Altman, they discuss the language model GPT-4 and the degree to which it can be understood. Altman explains that while there are many ways to evaluate the model's performance, the most important factor is how useful and valuable it is to people in creating better science, products, and services. While there is a deeper understanding of how the model works, Altman acknowledges that there is still much we do not know about why it performs certain tasks over others. He notes that GPT-4 can be full of wisdom, which is a different type of knowledge than facts, but also acknowledges that sometimes the model struggles to understand certain concepts and struggles with its reasoning capabilities. Altman notes that sometimes the model is used more as a database than a reasoning engine, and that this affects its performance. Altman explains how certain simple tasks like counting words or characters can be difficult for AI models due to their architecture. He notes that OpenAI is building and releasing technology to the public in order to receive feedback and shape the development of AI more collaboratively, but acknowledges that this process can result in imperfect releases. Altman mentions the bias in the initial release of GPT and how user feedback helped improve it with GPT-4. He emphasizes the need for more personalized control for users over the technology. One interesting anecdote he shares is querying GPT about Jordan Peterson and how the model provided a nuanced response, showing the potential for AI to bring some nuance back to the world. Altman concludes by expressing his empathy for those who focus on small issues like the number of characters in the model's output, as he understands that small issues can be important in aggregate. Altman discusses the importance of AI safety considerations in the release of GPT-4, and notes that OpenAI spent a significant amount of time on these concerns before releasing the model. He explains that they started by giving it to people to red team and did their own internal safety checks. The combination of internal and external efforts, along with building new ways to align the model, allowed them to make progress towards a more aligned system. However, Altman notes that they still haven't discovered a way to align a super powerful system. He also discusses how the work they do to make GPT-4 safer and more aligned looks very similar to all the other work they do of solving the research and engineering problems associated with creating useful and powerful models. Altman also explains RLHF, a process that is applied broadly across the entire system, where a human votes on the better way to say something. He notes that there is no one set of human values or right answers to human civilization, so society will need to agree on broad bounds of what these systems can do. However, within those bounds, different countries and individual users can have different RLHF tunes. Altman also talks about the system message, a way for users to have a good degree of steerability over what GPT-4 does. The system message allows users to tell the model how they want it to behave, and they tune the model to treat the system message with a lot of authority. Altman notes that writing and designing a great prompt to steer GPT-4 takes creativity, and some people spend up to 12 hours a day for a month to get a feel for the model. Altman also notes that while there are some parallels between human conversation and AI, there are also ways that the analogies break down, such as the unlimited rollouts possible with AI. Altman explains that as GPT becomes smarter, it starts to feel like another human in the way it responds to prompts, which has interesting implications for the development of dialogue interfaces and iteration processes. Altman cites the System Card, a document that discusses AI safety and provides transparency on how GPT-4 was designed to avoid harmful outputs. As an example, Altman mentions the challenge of aligning AI to human preferences and values, as people have different definitions and thresholds for hate speech and harmful outputs, raising questions about who should decide what the limits are. Despite these challenges, Altman believes that GPT-4 and other AI systems have the potential to be incredibly powerful tools for creative work and programming. Sam Altman suggests that all stakeholders should come together and have a thoughtful deliberative conversation to agree on the overall rules of the system, similar to the U.S. Constitutional Convention. He notes that different countries and institutions may have different versions of the rules, but they should all be within the balance of what is possible in their respective countries. When asked if OpenAI can offload this responsibility onto humans, Altman states that OpenAI has to be heavily involved because they bear the responsibility for putting the system out and being accountable for it. However, he acknowledges the impracticality of having OpenAI alone define the rules and encourages other individuals and institutions to participate in the process. Fridman then asks about the dangers of an unrestricted model and the problem of regulating other people's speech. Altman suggests that what people want is a model that aligns with their worldview, rather than free speech absolutism. He notes that OpenAI is working on presenting a nuanced tension of ideas, but there are still concerns about biased outputs. When asked about pressure from clickbait journalism, Altman says that OpenAI is happy to admit when they are wrong and strives to listen to every piece of criticism. There is pressure, but they try not to internalize it too much. When asked about the moderation tooling for GPT, Altman says that they have systems that try to learn when a question is unsafe and they rank the outputs from best to worst. However, there is a challenge when an egregiously dumb answer gets attention on social media, and Altman suggests that we will need to adapt to this in the future. They then talk about the design and evolution of GPT, an artificial intelligence language model. He acknowledges that there are still flaws in the system, but emphasizes the importance of building in public and bringing society along gradually. He points out that one of the challenges is to avoid the feeling of being scolded by a computer, which he finds personally bothersome. Moreover, he stresses the importance of not treating users like children, but as adults capable of exploring any topic, even if it may be controversial or conspiratorial in nature. Altman explains that the transition from GPT-3 to GPT-4 involved not just one major technical leap, but rather hundreds of small wins that when multiplied together resulted in significant progress. He also addresses a common misconception that GPT-4 has 500 trillion parameters, which is not true but rather a meme that originated from a misinterpretation of a presentation he gave about the limitations of parameters in comparison to the human brain. He admits to feeling bad about the incident, but stresses that size is not everything and that people often take these discussions out of context. Altman further emphasizes that with its complexity, GPT is probably the most complex software object humanity has produced so far, and that in a couple of decades it will likely be trivial compared to what AI systems will be capable of. He concludes by acknowledging the significance of the history of human civilization and all the advancements that have led up to the development of GPT. The discussion ends centering around the question of how much data is needed to reconstruct the complexity of humanity, particularly in relation to the development of artificial general intelligence. While Altman notes that a great deal of data is required to create AI models, he also suggests that it's not just the size of the model that matters, but also the quality of the performance. Altman emphasizes that OpenAI is result-driven and focused on finding the most effective ways of producing high-quality AI solutions. While there is some debate over whether large language models can achieve general intelligence, Altman believes that LLMs are part of the solution, but not the only answer. He suggests that other concepts like the ability to experience the world through a body may be important, but that the potential for AI as a tool that amplifies human abilities is still largely unexplored. Additionally, he discusses how the fear of AI taking over jobs may not necessarily be a concern as AI models are still far from producing the critical and creative ideas that great programmers contribute. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of the Pod Slice.